Now, the process of reconciliation between the two rival Palestinian parties, Fatah and Hamas, reaching rather a critical stage. In 2 weeks' time, Hamas is due to hand over control of Gaza to the Palestinian Authority. There is, though, still a major sticking point. What happens to the armed wing of Hamas and other armed brigades? Well, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas wants the groups dismantled, but the militias, who number tens of thousands of fighters, so far set to refuse to do so. Well, for France 24, Jacob Burns, Marine Vlahovic and Jimmy Hutchinen report from the Gaza Strip.
In the Gaza Strip, they are called resistance fighters, and there are between 30 to 40,000 of them, according to estimates. It took us several weeks of work to meet these militiamen who advocate the armed struggle against Israel and think violence is legitimate.
We, the Nasser Salahuddin brigades, as well as the other brigades, consider that the weapons of resistance are legal and that they are not negotiable. It's a red line. We will never lay down our weapons while we live under Israeli occupation.
After only a few minutes with them, the fighters ask us to leave. Tracked by Israeli forces who deploy drones night and day in the sky of the Palestinian enclave, they must move their camp.
There are drones just above us. We have to leave.
Claiming to have several thousand members, the Nasser Salahuddin brigades are the armed wing of the Popular Resistance Committees. In this tiny territory of 2 million inhabitants, each political party has its own militia. A myriad of groups listed as terrorist organizations that has helped to form the identity of Gaza.
Here in the center of Gaza City, you can see portraits of martyrs and commanders. That's Gaza, its resistance. Gaza is proud of it. We resist the occupation on a daily basis. Armed groups work night and day to free our land from occupation.
However, this armed struggle has cost the Palestinian enclave, which has been ruled by Hamas for the past 10 years. Under Israeli blockade throughout that time, and more isolated than ever, the Gaza Strip is undergoing an unprecedented economic and humanitarian crisis. The various Palestinian movements, therefore, welcomed with relief the reconciliation process between Fatah and Hamas.
There's now a genuine national will for reconciliation. And this reconciliation is necessary for the Palestinian people. We have to be united to fight the enemy and build our state with Jerusalem as its capital.
But this fight is not to the liking of the Palestinian Authority. Its president, Mahmoud Abbas, demands the dismantling of the armed wing of Hamas, the powerful Al-Qassam brigades, but the Islamist movement refuses.
Hamas was crystal clear. As long as we are still under occupation, we don't have a state yet. We have to keep our gun to defend ourselves. Once we have a state, if there is a peaceful settlement to the conflict, that's fine. Then we can discuss this issue.
In 10 years, Israel and Hamas and its allies have fought 3 wars. Despite an informal truce, the tension is high since the Jewish state bombed an attack tunnel dug by Islamic Jihad 2 weeks ago. The second largest armed force in the Gaza Strip promises to retaliate in time to revenge the death of its 12 fighters.
It's my brother Ahmed, who died in the collapse of the Freedom Tunnel while he was trying to rescue fighters stranded in it. It's an honor for us to have a martyr in the family.
Ahmed Abu Armana was barely 30 years old. His bereaved family is providing unwavering support for the resistance, however, saying it is unthinkable to imagine the Gaza Strip without the armed struggle.
It's impossible. Who will defend the people? Without the resistance, Israel would have wiped us off the map a long time ago. May God give the resistance his strength. And there are more martyrs like Ahmed and the others.
With this popular support, the brigades are determined to stand up to Mahmoud Abbas. In order not to jeopardize the reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas, The two sides will have to find a compromise. Could these soldiers be integrated into a future Palestinian army?
Speaking of a Palestinian national army will come up if we have Palestinian nationhood, but there is a total Israeli occupation of West Bank, East Jerusalem, and a complete Israeli siege and blockade of the Gaza Strip. But this is an idea which can be accomplished in the future. Same thing if you want to compare it to Israeli groups who fought in 1948 against the Palestinians. And once the State of Israel was established in 1948, all of these militant groups were integrated in the so-called IDF, Israeli Defense Forces.
Fatah and Hamas will meet again in Cairo on November 21st. But the thorny issue of disarming brigades will remain unresolved. The road to reconciliation, so much hoped for by the Gazans, is still long.
It's our special report there in Focus.